Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the downfall of guy, which if you don't know who that is, he's a business owner and TikTok creator who made a name for himself primarily from doing a series called The Downfall of, where he discussed the marketing downfall of popular brands and creators, a few that got him quite a lot of views and grew his following on TikTok quite a bit, were his videos The Downfall of the D'Amelios, which he did a two-part series on them, and he also made a video exposing Kourtney Kardashian's Let Me Live supplement brand for false advertising. He was perceived as very trustworthy and brutally honest at times, and he definitely made a name for himself by being pretty harsh in his criticism, specifically towards other companies, and he does own a company himself. And one thing about doing that, if that is how you get your views, is you need to actually be better than the companies that you're criticizing. And if you're not, you need to be prepared for the criticism that you have dished out to be directed back towards you. He's also very known for, at the beginning of all of his videos, flexing his master's in business administration or his MBA. He always says something to the effect of, I'm the youngest person in Canada to receive an MBA, and here's why I'm going to be talking about this, or whatever this topic of the video is. The main thing to know, though, is that it seems like he can dish it, but he cannot take it. We'll get into all the reasons why, but the tides have kind of turned around on him when he recently made a video called The Downfall of the Kamala Harris campaign, which was deleted pretty shortly afterwards, and he did make an apology video for, but not before losing over 150,000 followers on TikTok. So people have been saying for a little while, as they do with most popular creators, that Be Better was due for a downfall of his own pretty soon. He has gotten some criticism over time for people saying that he is just negative and like his type of videos are negative. I actually don't personally agree with that. I definitely don't agree with everything he has done since, but I don't actually think there's anything wrong with his videos being the downfall of. I would think it would be kind of hypocritical of me to say that anyways, just because I make videos about popular things that are going on, and oftentimes they are kind of perceived as negative, or they could be anyways. I don't feel like I'm being necessarily negative, but I could see how that would be the case. And some of the topics I talk about definitely aren't positive, happy things either. So like I said, Be Better was generally pretty well liked and pretty recognizable for his series, such as The Downfall of Kourtney Kardashian's brand Let Me, where he exposed that from his knowledge and everything that he has studied, it doesn't seem like her supplements could possibly deliver the results that they're saying that they will.
I have a master's degree in botanical medicine, and today I'm going to use it to expose why this brand by Kourtney Kardashian is one of the biggest scams I have seen in the supplement industry in a very, very long time. Imagine my shock and my disappointment when I actually read the ingredients and did a deep dive on some of these more specific. So initially I went to try the matcha because I love matcha, and this was my first red flag. For those of you that can't see, it's essentially the same size as a Skittle. So for me, this was a red flag because I know, as somebody that literally has done manufacturing for these types of supplements before, there's only so much room where you can fit in these medicinal ingredients into this tiny little gummy, because the vast majority of these gummies need to be other things. They need to be natural flavors, sometimes gelatin and sugar and all these different things, which is typically why high-end, high-quality supplements are in capsules and not made into gummies, because you have to compromise essentially the efficacious dosing that you need to get the results that you want. Honestly shocked to see that Kourtney Kardashian is engaging in something called proprietary blends. So for those of you that don't know, this is very important, so stick with me. Proprietary blends are essentially when supplement companies will tell you there's 100 milligrams of these 3 ingredients in our product, but they don't tell you the breakdown of how much of each ingredient is going into it. So this to me is extremely unethical. It's very dishonest. I will never consume a supplement that has proprietary blends, because as a consumer, it's relevant to me. If you are advertising a product that's going to be helping my health, I deserve to know the actual breakdown. So just to give you like an example, it would be like if I was selling you a bag and I said, hi, I'm going to sell you a bag. It has gold in it, it has diamonds, and it has rat poop, and it's 10 pounds. So it's going to be great. But I'm not going to tell you how much gold, how much diamonds, and how much rat poop. All you know is that it's 10 pounds of something in here. Would you buy that bag for me? Or would you be skeptical that me trying to make money is secretly putting 99% rat poop? Next thing that I want to touch on is the hypocrisy of the whole personal brand of Kourtney Kardashian being sugar-free, gluten-free, Wi-Fi free. And then for you to have such a high sugar product was shocking to me. Before I bought these, I had assumed it was going to be made out of stevia or something, or really anything other than cane sugar. It's cane sugar. So the reason that I really don't believe that Kourtney Kardashian even consumes these products is that if it was true, and every morning she woke up and she took the serving size, which is 2 gummies out of all 10 of these products that she sells, that would be like 30 grams of sugar right in the morning. I find it very hard to believe that that is what she's doing.
Now that's really interesting, because Let Me is now facing a lawsuit for deceptive advertising, and a lot of people do think that Be Better had a hand in people starting to realize and pursue Let Me. Obviously, that is all hearsay. I don't know if his series had any actual impact on the lawsuit, but I definitely do think it opened people's eyes just to how marketing, especially with supplements, can sometimes be a little bit shady. That's the idea of his content, and like I said, things are going pretty well for him. He was generally a really popular creator, and a lot of his videos and series on The Downfall of were very successful for him. And one video that he did that was still popular, but definitely gave him some backlash too, was he attempted to expose a brand by Nick Sturniolo. I don't know how to say their last name, but they're these 3 popular triplets. I've never really watched their content, but I do get compilations of them on my For You page sometimes. And I will say they seem like pretty hilarious and nice guys. Nick, one of the triplets, did create a brand called Space Camp Wellness lip balm brand, and Be Better made a video exposing that, so I'll play that here for you now. I'm not going to play the entire video. It is still up on his page, so you can find the whole thing. It's 9 minutes and 35 seconds, so I'm sure you guys don't want to sit through that, but I will play the most important parts here now of what he was discussing.
Okay, so I'm just going to cut to the chase with this one. I believe that Sturniolo is lying about his lip balm company, and I actually have some exclusive evidence to prove it. So the reason why this entire video came about and why I went down this rabbit hole in the first place is because you guys asked me for an actual honest review of these products, so I decided to bite the bullet and I purchased them myself, which came to 83 Canadian dollars. So $83 is obviously a ridiculous and borderline offensive amount of money to spend on lip balm, but I did it anyway in the interest of research. And in doing this research, I uncovered some very sketchy things about this brand that I think honestly need to be exposed because it reveals a much more important conversation that we need to have about influencer-led products. So the first piece of evidence that activated my spidey senses, if you will, was an interview that Sturniolo did on the Zach Sang podcast, where he's asked a very specific, pointed question and then proceeds to not answer the question and appear to be very visibly uncomfortable in the fact that that question was asked in the first place. So take a look.
Would you, are you doing this on your own? Who do you partner with to do this? How does this
so
even come
it
to
took
be?
me like months to like really work on it and figure it out. But I was basically getting into the rhythm of like, I knew I wanted to do a lip balm. Then from there, it was about like sourcing like the right team and the right manufacturer because I'm an avid lip balm user. So I knew that I wanted to make sure that the product was really, really good. So that was the first step is I needed to find a place that had the product really, really good. And then a team behind it that also was like super willing to hop on. So it took like 8 months, but.
Wow.
Wow, it took you 8 months? That's almost a year. So the reason why this interaction was so bizarre is that Zach asked a question, and then instead of answering it, you moved the pillow, got very uncomfortable, and started rambling a very clearly pre-rehearsed skit to appear like, oh yes, this was the sequence of events, was I wanted the lip balm company first, and then I approached the company. So that's very important because it's a very common lie that influencers say, because in reality, most of these companies are actually built for them, and the company will go around and basically audition different influencers because all they really are actors, a face to be stamped on the product after the fact. And then it's important though that they make it seem like this was the story, and they train them and they say, hey guys, make sure that you make it seem like it was really your idea in the first place and that you sourced the team. If he said, oh yeah, they approached me and I just slapped my name on it, that wouldn't really be good for business, would it? And I'm not a detective, but body language experts, maybe you can back me up here, because he seemed to be very uncomfortable in giving that answer, was looking around, and it just didn't really feel genuine to me. So then naturally, I started thinking to myself, well, if he doesn't own the business, then who does? And I actually think that I found the answer to that. So I did some research online, and I found 2 publicly available documents. So I'm not exposing anything here that's unknown. But basically, when you start a business, there's something called articles of organization, is what they call it in the States. In Canada, it's just articles of incorporation. And this basically represents legally to the government who owns the entity of Space Camp Wellness. And I found it, Space Camp Wellness, and the actual agent, aka the founder and real owner of the brand, is someone named David Winders. Now, David's name popped up in another search that I did, which was he's also the founder of a company you may have heard of called the Patch Brand. So the Patch Brand is a company that is so far removed from science in terms of what could be classified as a supplement, it actually makes Kourtney Kardashian's candies look like high-quality supplements. So basically, they sell stickers that they claim on their website that these stickers are, quote, have the same bioavailability as comparable vitamin capsules. Well, color me skeptical, because if this were true and we could actually deposit ingredients and vitamins into people's bodies, we would have no need for IVs, we would have no need for pills, and it's collapsing as I'm speaking. This would change modern medicine as we know it. So someone alert the Nobel Peace Prize, the Nobel Prize winners, because the Patch Brand figured out something that would change medicine for the better if it were true, but it's not true. That who is the real owner of Space Camp Wellness? If that's not enough evidence to prove to you that Space Camp Wellness is really owned by the Patch Brand, further evidence is that the addresses that are listed on both publicly available documents are the exact same, and you can see screenshots from their website. The mailing address is the exact same, so it is the exact same organization. Clearly, Space Camp Wellness is a subsidiary of the Patch Brand, aka Sturniolo is not the founder, and to suggest that is deceptive marketing. The Patch Brand website and the Space Camp Wellness website are not just visually similar, they are quite literally identical in every single way, shape, and form. They literally simply copy and pasted the website from the Patch Brand for Space Camp Wellness and then slapped an influencer on it and called it a new company, called him the founder when he's not. A real founder, a real entrepreneur is somebody who has an idea that they actually think is going to provide value to people. So they pursue it with their own money, they pursue it in spite of people making fun of them, in spite of family and friends telling them that it's a stupid idea, and they literally crawl through the coals in order to make this dream happen, despite all of these forces working against them. A real founder is a single mom who gets 2 hours of sleep because she's up all night making soap for her Etsy store, hoping to build her small business into something that can sustain her family. A real founder is somebody who drops out of college, who takes a $2 million loan out and risks their entire professional life in order to pursue a dream that they deeply, deeply believe in. So no, I'm sorry, influencers, you don't get to skip the line. You don't get to come right at the very end when everything's been built for you, slap your name on it, and then use the word founder like that's the reality of what happened. And then not only use that, which is bad enough because it's a lie, but then center your entire business model and your entire product offering to the public around you being the founder. There are people who exclusively buy these products, young people, because they are under the false perception that they're supporting you when you probably don't even own equity in the company, if I were to assume. Not a founder, you're an ambassador, and it's a very different thing, and honestly very legally ambiguous to suggest to people that you're the founder when your name isn't on any of the paperwork to begin with.
Now, this may be an unpopular opinion, but I actually don't disagree with everything that Be Better was saying in this video. I think a lot of people who are a little bit older and more mature and knowledgeable kind of get where he was coming from, but I will say those triplets have a very big fan base, specifically with younger people, and so of course a lot of younger people were in the comments just defending and saying that Be Better is just terrible for for trying to take down such a nice guy. What he was more so talking about was that it can be a little bit misleading, especially to younger fans, to say that you are the founder and CEO of a company when really what it is a brand was already pre-established and ready to go, had everything laid out for you, manufacturers, websites, all of that, and you just get to kind of pick an aesthetic and put your name onto it. And Nick did respond to that, so I will play what he said here now.
Anyways, I'm sure a bunch of you guys have some Space Camp questions, so I'm going to answer those for you and say, I am 100% the founder of my brand. I came up with the idea almost a year ago. I'm 100% one of the owners, but I work with brand partners, so the brand partners are also involved. Therefore, the legal paperwork does not have my name, but every decision ever made through Space Camp has been either from my brain or approved by me, and we're going to move on. Ready? Let's have a great stream. I'm ready. Let's do it. Okay, I'm ready.
Obviously, I'm sure a lot of his younger fans were like, yeah, that makes total sense. Some people still were kind of like, I don't know, that doesn't really make you a founder then if your name is not on any of the legal paperwork for the brand. An issue I have with Be Better's expose of the brand is that he did criticize the price of the lip balms, which they definitely are still expensive. But when he was talking about the lip balms, he did not specify necessarily about the shipping versus the cost of the actual lip balms, nor the exchange rate to Canadian dollars, because he is Canadian. So he kind of said like he paid $83 for lip balm, which like yes, in total he did pay $83 for lip balm, but it does feel a little bit misleading to make it sound like that is the price of the lip balm when the lip balm, from what I have seen, retails for $36 USD for a 3-pack, so it's about $12 each, which is $50 Canadian, which is definitely still, in my opinion, too overpriced. It's not something I would pay for 3 lip balms, but he doesn't really have any control over the exchange rate, and the exchange rate definitely is not favorable for Canadian. And then the shipping to Canada is $32, which again, way too overpriced. I would not pay that for shipping, but a lot of the time with these companies, they already just use a shipping company and the costs are predetermined for shipping. So again, that isn't really something that Nick necessarily has control over. It is interesting to me that Be Better was talking about how $83 is way too expensive for the lip balms, but the honey that he sells at his company is $80 a pop. A lot of Nick's fans did not like Be Better's take, saying that he recently made a video exposing that Nick Sturniolo does not truly own his company, Space Camp Wellness, since then have been subjected to severe bullying, harassment, death threats from 12-year-old fans. Nick claims that being one of the owners is vague and misleading. Owning minor stock in Tesla or Apple doesn't make me their owner or founder. 99% of influencers are merely faces of companies used by wealthy investors who are the real owners. This is misleading to their followers who deserve honesty. Nick chose to dismiss these allegations without providing any evidence to refute my claims, which would have been very easy to do if they were untrue. This lack of evidence only confirms the truth of my statements. I stand by everything I said in my video. So that was one backlash per se. Definitely not the main one. The main one that people were extremely upset about, like I mentioned, was his takedown of the Kamala Harris campaign, which we're going to get to that. But really quickly, I want to touch on how when this all kind of started coming about, his MBA, which he mentions in pretty well every video, has been brought up quite a bit. Mainly his own fault because he does start every video saying he's the youngest person in Canada to receive an MBA, which one, I'm wondering how would you know that? Like, is there a list that you sign up for to be the youngest? And like when someone else younger comes up, do you get notified? I don't know. He uses it as a way to build credibility and sort of explain why he feels he is an authority on the subject that he's speaking about. And no one is critiquing that and saying like, oh, it's a fake MBA, he doesn't actually have one. Like obviously he shows it in the videos, people believe that he has one. But other people, specifically more like academic people, because I am definitely not one myself, I don't even have a regular degree, let alone an MBA. But people have been saying that being young and getting an MBA isn't always actually that much of a flex because usually the qualifications to get one are years of experience owning and working in a business. So people are kind of thinking maybe he lacks that experience and was able to just sort of somehow get through early. But yeah, I'm going to play a couple videos about that just because obviously these people have a better understanding of it than I do.
I don't want to be a dick, but there's a reason most people aren't particularly young when they finish their MBAs. And that's because to get into most of the well-regarded, well-ranked programs, you need some sort of work experience. Obviously there are exceptions like the Harvard 2+2 program and the Yale Silver Scholars program, but even those require you to get some sort of work experience before you graduate. And prestige isn't everything. I myself didn't go to an M7, I went to Duke, which is in the top 15, but it is to say that getting an MBA at a young age isn't a flex in and of itself. And Be Better clearly understands social media marketing, right? Like it was a great hook, it was very successful, but I don't think it's a flex to get into an MBA program that doesn't require a GRE or GMAT score, doesn't have a concrete work experience requirement, and is, from what I could tell, on the global scale, unranked. Also, an MBA, even from Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, is a professional degree. It's not a PhD. It doesn't make you an expert in anything. Clearly, like a lot of people, I was also very annoyed at his comments about the Kamala Harris campaign. I'm not American, but I am an immigrant. I do live here. I have skin in the game. I think his take was at best stupid and at worst irresponsible.
Okay, so there's one video kind of explaining it, and then I have, I think, one more.
I have a master's degree in English, and today I want to use that to talk about how having a master's degree doesn't make you qualified to talk about every subject in the world. To get this degree, I actually didn't have to take any classes in current American politics. Just like if I was getting a master's in, I don't know, business in Canada, I probably wouldn't have to take any classes on American politics then either. Now, I certainly had the option to take some classes that would intersect between English literature and American politics, but that wouldn't make me an expert in American politics. Does this make sense? Now, obviously, I still could have become an expert in American politics by studying it on my own outside of grad school, but that would mean what qualifies me as an expert in discussing political strategy is not my master's in business. I mean, English. I also don't even need to be an expert to talk about something. I could just share my opinion and not show my master's degree at the beginning of the video to try and qualify myself as an expert in it. So yeah, I hope this helps anybody who's thinking about making a complete fool of themselves by doing very little research into a subject they already don't know much about, but pretending to be an expert in by holding up their unrelated master's degree.
Fully agree. So that is definitely one of the criticisms that people were giving, and I've seen multiple videos just discussing like the MBA requirements. People also started bringing up that he's kind of like a nepo baby of business because his dad is a very successful business owner in a rubber manufacturing company in Canada, and Be Better actually works for his dad's company. Now again, no one is ripping on that in general, but people are saying that that probably gave him a leg up and the business experience that he needed to receive his MBA. I definitely can see why people would be drawing that comparison. Again, not saying it's true, I really don't know, but I would imagine that having access to a father with a very successful business would help with the degree in some way. I also just don't love when people flex their degree as a means to validate any and all of their opinions and things that they say. Like the criticism videos were kind of saying there, having a degree or a master's degree or anything in one area of expertise does not make you an expert of everything as a whole. People work hard and pay a lot for their degrees, so my issue isn't him talking about his degree and what he learned and using that as a way to explain sort of his viewpoint, but I feel like there would be a way that he could do it that would be a lot more genuine. I personally watch creators who have degrees that are relevant to what they're talking about, and they often say, you know, things like what I learned or based on this textbook that I still have or things like that as a way to explain why it is that they're talking in the way they are or what they're talking about without saying, I have this degree, so here's my completely irrelevant opinion, believe me. And the main reason that his MBA and his qualifications are even being brought up is because he decided to make a video about the Kamala Harris campaign, as I mentioned, and it was very bad. It was a terrible video because not only was it not factually correct at all, it was just not well received and it seemed in very poor taste. And a big criticism of pretty well everyone who watched the video was, what does this Canadian with a business degree have to possibly say about US politics? There's just no relevancy between his degree versus what he was using it to talk about. And I'm gonna play some parts of his Kamala Harris video. Now this one has been deleted from his page, but I'm just gonna play a few parts here and kind of just like touch on the points that he was making or what he was saying.
Hi, so I have a master's degree in business, and today I'm going to use it to analyze the marketing strategy of Kamala Harris's campaign, and ultimately why I believe if she continues with the horrible marketing strategy she has been employing, why she will ultimately end up losing the presidency to Donald Trump. So obviously this is a highly emotional and contentious topic for a lot of people, but the reason why I did want to speak on it is that I think there's a lot of parallels to be drawn between the marketing of a product and the marketing of a political candidate. And while I wish that wasn't the case, because I wish that politics was less of an exercise in personal branding and more of a deeper discussion on substantive policies that will actually be impacting the everyday lives of human beings, that just simply is not the case. And although I'm not American, I'm Canadian, your elections have consequences for the entire world, so I think anybody that wants to put their 2 cents in is allowed to. So based on my objective analysis, I believe that Kamala Harris's campaign is built upon very flawed marketing strategy that is very heavily relying on superficial social media engagement, identity politics, and a highly crafted and tightly controlled public image of her persona that is so far removed from the reality of who she is and so socially and media engineered to the point that it is essentially a house of cards.
Now, one thing I want to point out is he does speak very articulately when he's making these videos. He definitely sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and he has a way of speaking and using language that definitely makes him sound a little bit more intelligent than maybe the average person would be about these topics. So I can see why people who maybe don't know the most of what he's saying would just believe what he says. Like, I myself definitely don't know a lot about presidential campaigns as a whole, past or present, so I definitely don't know the most about Kamala's campaign either. If I didn't know anything about it and this was the first video I was seeing about it, I would probably believe what he was saying just because the way that he's saying it, it makes it sound well researched, even though it's very clearly not at all and has been proven not to be well researched. He even said himself, but we'll keep listening.
So the first marketing strategy that Kamala Harris is employing, and we are all collectively experiencing it whether we realize it or not, is the blank slate strategy. This is essentially where she is being intentionally vague and ambiguous in the language that she uses and the way that she appears publicly in order to take advantage of the psychological phenomenon of projection. Because if you are extremely vague and generic and say some of the right words without specifically committing to policies or being very clear about what your values are, human beings will simply project onto you what they want to see. Progressives will see her as extremely progressive and forward thinking. More moderate voters will see her as somebody that's a little bit more measured, and you can kind of see reasoning behind why they're doing it. I don't think it's completely stupid, but I think it is doomed to fail because although it is working in the short term, she's going to eventually be put into scenarios like debates where she'll be forced to take firm stances on topics, and because she hasn't done that intellectual work to decide where she really lands on these important issues, she may end up looking unqualified for the job.
Okay, so that's one quick little thing that he said that a lot of people took issue with, myself included, is the language of saying she hasn't done the intellectual work. Who is he to say what she has or hasn't done and to imply that she hasn't worked hard or doesn't understand politics? Saying she hasn't done the intellectual work is just honestly rude. Like, it's pretty rude to say that. He's like kind of talking down on her as if there's no way that she like understands things and that she's going to be put into positions where she has to talk about policy, as if no one would have thought about that in a presidential campaign or the fact that they do presidential debates.
So the next issue with the blank slate strategy is the only reason it's even remotely effective is specifically because she is solely relying on identity politics. And although I completely understand and respect the excitement associated with nominating the first woman president, the first black woman president, the first South Asian American black woman president, and that's something that is exciting and it's something that will understandably galvanize a certain demographic of the population that will vote for her solely based on that alone, I do not believe it is a substitute for an actionable policy platform that will actually impact the lives of the American people, because people are currently suffering economically and they want to understand and feel secure in the fact that you have a plan to ameliorate their suffering. So it seems like her campaign is relying on the sole fact that people will be so excited to vote for the first black woman that they'll be willing to overlook the fact that she doesn't have a true vision for the country. I do not believe that is something that should be relied upon, especially in the context of the United States, where the election will be decided based upon tens of thousands of votes in specific swing states.
Okay, so that's a really quick thing here that lots of people pointed out. Now, I didn't know anything about this, but I just did some quick researching. And from everything I read and videos I watched with people who know a lot more about this, Kamala hasn't actually been doing any identity politics at all. And from what I've been seeing, her campaign specifically has strayed away from that, probably due to the fact that that is what Hillary Clinton did and it was extremely unsuccessful. So this is something that he's completely projected onto her because he assumes that because she's a woman and a woman of color at that, that has to be what she's basing her campaign on. As well, he said that she doesn't have any policies or anything like that, but if you Google it literally for like 2 seconds, there's tons of news articles that come out about things that Kamala has said and policies that she wants to introduce. So again, just seems super unresearched, but for people who don't know that or aren't going to look into that, the way that he's so confidently saying this stuff almost makes you believe it, because when people say things super confidently, you think that they know what they're talking about, that they have research. It's just kind of human nature. The more confident that someone is when they say something, the more believable it is. Most people would assume it's sort of like a confirmation bias, I guess you could say. He's got tons of views, he has tons of followers, and he's always coming on making these videos saying, I have a degree in this and here's my opinion, and they're always really well received. So for him to make a video saying all this stuff that is not even factually accurate at all about Kamala's campaign, some people would see this and think, well, there's no way that he would go online and say that if it wasn't true, so it must be true, I believe it. And he definitely is perpetuating a lot of right-wing talking points in this video. I'm not going to play the entire thing because I'm definitely not someone who's into political stuff at all. I don't think I know enough to really have a full conversation about it, but this was a huge issue for people that he even posted this at all, and not to mention, one, that he posted this, but two, how inaccurate it is and how damaging that could be.
The other issue with this lack of a policy platform is it leaves her very vulnerable to attacks from Donald Trump, because they can project any image onto her that they want, and she has no reasonable way to articulate a defense to them because she doesn't really stand for anything. So the next issue that I have with the Kamala Harris campaign is they seem to be very heavily relying on social media engagement as well as celebrity endorsements to create this sort of image of widespread popularity. The issue with using social media as a way to evaluate the current success of the Kamala Harris campaign is that social media metrics can be extremely inflated and very misleading, because a huge demographic on TikTok, for example, are people under the age of 18. They will not be voting, and it's also further inflated by the fact that many people on TikTok are in international countries who just enjoy watching the politics for the show of it, like me, but we will not be voting in the election, so it can lead her campaign to be in a place where they are overestimating their grassroots support when in reality they don't have it.
Okay, another thing about that, this is kind of the last thing I think I'll touch on in his video here. I understand what he's saying here, that doing the social media thing and basically like making memes, stuff like that, is maybe overinflating how well liked she is as a candidate. I can understand what he's saying, but the thing is if this guy or me, a 28-year-old Canadian, can think about that, does he really think that the people running her campaign and Kamala herself haven't thought about that? People who trained and have gone to school and have years and years and years of experience running campaigns and in politics specifically, does he really think that they would have never considered that at all as a possibility? Again, it just comes off very like holier than thou to me. This is just my opinion, but it comes off very holier than thou where he thinks that he's so smart for figuring that out, and like they never would have considered that many people on TikTok are under 18, or that many people on TikTok are not from America, as if they don't have access to the demographics and aren't looking at analytics and demographics about who's watching and engaging with the content. So yeah, hopefully I'm making sense, but I just feel like if I can understand that as a concept, surely people who specialize in politics and running campaigns would be able to understand that and definitely have already thought about that. So that was his video, and like I said, overarching theme here is that it's inaccurate. His main criticism was that she's running on identity politics, which is just not even true. And to me personally, it seems like he felt like he just knew that Kamala, as a woman of color, would be relying on identity politics when simply that's just not true, and that's honestly a him issue that he projected that onto her. And here are a few comments from Reddit just sort of about the whole thing that was happening. So someone said, I don't want to be elitist, but it's also comical that he touts his master's degree as though people running Kamala's campaign don't also have master's degrees from better universities and years of experience running campaigns. The campaign is also working with top advertising agencies, so what exactly does he bring to the table in his criticism? It's like he's seeing their social media strategy, which is good by the way, but not any of their location targeted TV ads, stump speech stuff, canvassing, etc. It's silly, he doesn't know what he's talking about at all, and maybe it was rage bait, but I actually think he truly believes his own BS and that he's an expert. Someone else said, he just states an opinion and prefaces it with, I have a master's degree, so children on TikTok take his word as gospel. This is a disingenuous representation. The opinion he stated cited several blatantly false pieces of information. He says she has no clear policies when he could have found them with a 5-second Google search. He said she hasn't done the intellectual work to know what she's doing. He said she sounds stupid when she speaks unscripted, but she's known for how well she does in debate. He said that she's running solely on identity politics, but she has gone out of her way not to bring up being the first Black South Asian woman to be president. He has said her entire strategy is superficial marketing and she only posts on TikTok, but her campaign has spent millions on TV ads. He might have seen one of those ads if he was American, but he's not. An arrogant Canadian man with a marketing degree did no research and gave a baseless opinion on American politics. He proclaimed that entire strategy was vapid and lacking grassroots organization, but she raised the most money in one day of any candidate in history. Massive groups have organized themselves to raise millions for her, and she has brought out more first-time campaign donors than any candidate in history. Voter registration shot up when she entered the race. There are a million examples that disprove everything he said. So there's definitely more comments where that came from, but this was when people also started to point out that his dad's company allegedly benefited from Trump during COVID. So people were thinking that it seems a little bit convenient. Definitely people were kind of down a conspiracy rabbit hole here. But people were pointing out that the funding was given to his dad's company without the bidding for it. So it sounds like there might have been personal ties to what he was saying. One person said he strayed out of his lane big time and tried to do his usual brand criticism shit to Harris's campaign, but it was really a lazy analysis filled with factually incorrect takes, and there was a weird air of misogyny over it all. He got shredded and made an apology video, but a lot of info about his family came out. Mainly, his degree is not nearly as prestigious as he claimed, and his dad got a lot of COVID loans from Trump. The implication is that his dad didn't need the loan and pocketed everything, but don't quote me on that part. There might be more I'm missing though. I don't necessarily think that his video had anything to do with that, and he did make an apology video, which we of course will listen to that as well. Once again, maybe not the entire thing because it is 9 minutes. I'm going to speed up all the videos a little bit because they are so long, but I'll play that here for you.
So I wanted to come on here and address a previous video that I posted, a video that has now been deleted for obvious reasons because it completely missed the mark in every single possible way. And the reason why that video was so poorly received is purely because of me. It was poorly researched, it was poorly articulated, and the reaction is now completely understandable. And there are some specific things that I wanted to correct because I'm not going to just delete the video and move on when it did upset people. And when I'm constantly talking about accountability, I'm going to hold myself accountable as well. So the first thing that I said in that video that I'm so disappointed in myself for saying is I said that Kamala Harris's campaign is mostly centered around identity politics, particularly her identity as being the first woman president. And the reason now why that was such a stupid comment is that it is factually wrong. And after spending the day talking with people who have made videos about my video and watching videos for myself through a different lens, I now see she actually hasn't mentioned that one time. And this is so disappointing for me to know and to realize and admit that I adopted a right-wing talking point to the point that I actually thought it was true and then perpetuated that as if it was a fact when it is irrefutably wrong. Kamala Harris hasn't even mentioned one time the fact that she's a woman, and that is something that has been projected onto her by other people. And I'm so disappointed in myself for saying something that is just literally not true. I think part of it was maybe I was projecting the fears from Hillary Clinton's campaign, where that was the focus, and Kamala Harris is not. It's completely different, and she hasn't made that the focus at all. So I want to apologize to everybody for using my platform to repeat something that I can now see was literally just false. And the reason why I'm so specifically disappointed in myself for that comment is that I've never thought of myself in my entire life as somebody that has a sexist bone in my body. I have 4 sisters. Every single adult friendship that I have is with women, so it's not been something that I've mentally taken inventory of before. So now to realize actually that I clearly had a bias, because that is the only way that a factually incorrect statement like that could have been adopted in my mind as reality, shows that I do have biases and things that I need to work on, and I absolutely will be taking time outside of this video to realize why that happened and make sure that it never happens again.
My issue, as I mentioned before, is that he said these factually wrong things with such conviction, and he didn't really touch on the fact that he used his degree and was speaking in such concrete language when he was saying things that are incorrect, so I don't know.
So the other specific thing that I said that I do want to hold myself accountable for is I said something to the effect of, if Kamala Harris hasn't done the intellectual work on picking a specific policy, she could be in a scenario like a debate where she's backed into a corner and doesn't know what to say. The choice to use the words hasn't done the intellectual work, while although I had no malicious intention behind it, I can see it was a completely idiotic statement to make, and I need to be much more careful when I choose my words. I took a very narrow-minded view of her campaign and saw that there were no policies listed on her website, when in reality, she has spoken about many policies, and when she does, they're reported on by so many news outlets, it probably isn't necessary to have them on the website anyway, and I'm sure at a certain point she will. And to imply, which was not my intention at all, but to even imply that she's not working hard is ridiculous. And I fully recognize she's probably currently working harder than anybody else on the planet. And there's immense amount of pressure on her. And she's in a very unique situation where she's only been doing this for a month. And I fully regret my choice of words when speaking about that topic. And the other reason why my video rightfully angered and upset so many people is because the factual reality of our society is that women are held to higher standards than men, period. And people of color are held to higher standards than white people, and women of color are arguably held to the highest standards of all. And that's true in families, in relationships, in school, in work, and in politics. At every single level, it's true. And if you need any proof of that, we can literally compare Obama's presidency to Trump's presidency. Had Obama lost an election, denied that he lost the election, and then encouraged his supporters to invade the Capitol, to override the democratic process, and take over the government violently, does anyone actually deny the fact that he would have been eviscerated viciously by Fox News and by Republicans? He would have never lived that down. He would have never gotten away with that. And he was criticized in his presidency for the color suits that he wore because they were grasping at straws. There was nothing else they could criticize him for. And then we have Donald Trump, someone running, who actually did that and who got away with it. Can you imagine if a woman did that? How crazy the media would have made her out to be? But somehow he still retains his image as being a strong, competent, intelligent leader, which he is not. He's a crazy person. And I'm so sorry that my video could have come across in any way that I would ever support him in any way, shape, or form.
I'm glad he's making his stance more clear now and that the other video is deleted. And I will say that it's interesting how he makes his videos talking about the downfall of marketing, such as Kamala's marketing and just other companies in general. He didn't foresee the negative way that this would impact him and the marketing of his company and his TikTok profile. And I definitely think that his video on Kamala Harris's campaign is what prompted people to do a little bit more digging into everything about him, his company, his other TikTok videos, his degree, things like that. I definitely think he kind of opened that gate himself. Veil was lifted a little bit and people started to see that sometimes maybe he isn't the most well-researched as he seems, or maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about as much as he seems like he does. And the next aspect of things that video sort of snowballed into impacting is his brand Be Better Company. Be Better Company makes honeys that come from a mountain in Greece. Now his honey company, Be Better Company, is being called into question for 1, being overpriced, and 2, for making health and wellness claims that are not that far off from the claims that he was saying that Lemmy supplements were making. So when you go on the website, which I'll put a little clip in here, recording that I took when browsing on the website, it's pretty clear to see why people think that way. I mean, he sells the honey for like $75 to $80 a jar, which definitely feels steep to me. That's just my opinion. Obviously, I don't know what his justification for that pricing is, but it definitely seems overpriced, even considering the benefits and like extra pizzazz that his honey has. So he says it's from the oldest monastery in the world, which even that, I wasn't able to validate that claim, even that it is in fact the oldest. Many different monasteries came up as being the oldest, but his honey is from the Holy Mountain in Greece. And it's interesting because you can buy honey directly from the monastery there for way less. Now, I watched a video from a creator called Ryan Beard Productions. I'm gonna play some of his video here now. I highly recommend going to watch the whole thing. And I actually found his video through an Angelik Oles video, which we will get to her in a minute and how that all comes into play here, where he discusses and breaks down the claims made on the Be Better Company website. And I found his video extremely well researched and well informed, so I'm gonna play some of that here now. I just feel like he does a way better job explaining it than I could. And I will also link his video down below if you want to watch the full thing, because I think it is brilliantly done and really well put together.
His most popular product is his Sunny Honey, which he claims will elevate your daily mental well-being because the honey is infused with saffron, sage, and St. John's wort. I did some research online and I did find some studies that seem to indicate that saffron, sage, and St. John's wort can have a positive effect on people's mental well-being. But in my opinion, he has made multiple statements on social media which reach far past just claiming that it can possibly help your mental well-being, and I hope to prove to you why I think he has engaged in false advertising. First, he tries to inflate how valuable saffron is by claiming that saffron is more valuable per pound than diamonds.
Saffron is the only herb on the entire planet more expensive per pound than diamonds. But because of this, many companies like to take advantage of saffron's popularity by selling fraudulent versions online.
Saffron is quite expensive. 1 pound of saffron is worth around $2,000. However, the average cost of a 1 carat diamond is around $4,000, and 1 carat equals 0.0004 pounds. So there are 2,267 carats in a pound, which means that 1 pound of diamonds is worth $9 million. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but 9 million is a little bit more than 2,000. And if you're trying to get people to buy your saffron-infused honey by claiming that saffron is way more valuable than it actually is, I would call that false advertising. A bunch of Be Better's marketing relies on the appeal to nature fallacy, which claims that natural things are better than unnatural things. Unpacking my herb-infused honey. For everyone that knows, the only way to heal natural beings is through nature. This is a completely ridiculous claim. There are all sorts of unnatural things which can heal humans, and there are all sorts of natural things which are dangerous to humans. Cyanide exists in nature, but it's obviously dangerous to humans. humans. Tylenol doesn't exist in nature, but generally it's safe for humans. And I think that Be Better knows that this claim is a lie because they contradict it under the legal terms of service on their website. For individuals on antidepressant medications, Sunny Honey should not replace such medications, nor should they be combined unless explicitly suggested by a physician, which is typically not recommended. According to the Competition Bureau of Canada, under paragraph 74.011b of the Competition Act, you cannot make a claim about a product's performance, its effectiveness, or its length of life unless you can prove that the claim is based on an adequate and proper test. In addition, the test must have been done before the claim is made. So unless Be Better has undergone testing, which proves that his honey really does heal you forever, then this is false advertising according to Canadian law. Now, why does Be Better claim that his honey is worth $80 when you can just buy these same ingredients for a fraction of the cost from a grocery store or pharmacy? Because his herbs and honey come from the holy mountain of Athos in Greece. Let's look at a few strange claims made on this page explaining why they source their herbs from this holy mountain. Virgin land that has never been exposed to pollution, technology, or pesticides. What do you mean that the land has never been exposed to pollution? Everywhere on Earth has been exposed to some level of pollution. And Greece as a country actually ranks on the lower end when it comes to air pollution in European countries. And the Mediterranean Sea that Mount Athos overlooks is also known for being incredibly polluted. Maybe this mountain has less pollution than other parts of Greece, but claiming that this mountain has never been exposed to pollution is obviously not true. And also, it's pretty ironic that Be Better's entire brand is built around being pollution-free while he simultaneously works for his dad's rubber manufacturing company, because manufacturing rubber releases a ton of pollution into the air, which goes completely against Be Better's entire message as a brand. Flowers native to northern Greece, making them very medicinal. This implies that the flowers are medicinal because they're from northern Greece. Why are the flowers from northern Greece more medicinal than the flowers from southern Greece? Hint, they're not. The medicinal qualities of a flower will depend on the chemicals that make up that flower, not on whether or not the flower was grown in northern Greece.
So as you heard in that video, Ryan does a wonderful job explaining the issues in the advertising of Be Better Company honey. Like I said, I wanted to play his video directly just because I feel like he does a way better job explaining it than I could. Again, that will be linked down below because I definitely recommend going to watch the rest of the video. He did recreate one of the honeys as well. I also find it a little bit interesting the claims that Be Better makes just because I can't help but compare them to his issues that he had with Kourtney Kardashian's Lemmy brand. Would the honey, the amount of the ingredients in the honey that you take in like a tablespoon form, be enough to actually deliver the results that he's claiming you'll get? Some evidence does suggest that these natural ingredients can have impact on the things that Be Better Company claims that they will. But I find the research a little bit limited, and much like Ryan said, just because something is natural, it doesn't actually always mean that it's better. And now I did mention Angelik Oles earlier, and she's gonna come into play here now because she made 2 videos now. One of them was her initial videos similar to this one about Be Better and just the discourse surrounding him online. And then the second video that she made was because he decided to DM her after her initial video, which showed to me that he can dish it all day long, but he can't take it himself. Angelika's videos, I'll have those linked down below as well because I really enjoy her commentary on things like this. But her video was very similar to this one, I would say. She just talked about the online discourse surrounding Be Better and just sort of what he's been called out for, and played a couple of TikToks and reacted to people responding to the whole situation. And Be Better then reached out to Angelika in DMs and said essentially that she mischaracterized him and his business. And he had DM'd her multiple paragraphs. He's going to make a video refuting every single one of her claims. What claims exactly is he refuting when all that she did was very similar to this video, react to TikToks that were already out there about him and say that she felt his honey was overpriced, which I mean, I spent $11 on a hot honey from a local company the other day, and even that I felt like I was like bawling out. Like that was a big treat for me. So I'm gonna read you the DMs that she shared. I'll play some of her video here, just sort of what she was saying about it as well.
He said, "Hey Angelika, I just saw your YouTube video on me. I have to be honest, I was really disappointed to see how much misinformation was present in that video and how much you mischaracterized everything about me and my business. Like, really disappointing. I can disprove literally everything you said in that video, and I'll be publicly responding to everything you said and debunking it with evidence." Right, okay, so debunk the fact that you did a video of Jake Paul. Debunk the fact that you did a misinformed video on Kamala Harris. Debunk your apology. Debunk the fact that I believe your honey is overpriced. And I don't understand this like thinly veiled threat, essentially. There's been a lot of horrible misinformation spread about me this past week to the point that my address got doxxed. That's like, I'm sorry, but that's literally got nothing to do with me. I posted my video after you had already lost 150,000 followers and you had already posted your apology video. Someone showed up to our house in the middle of the night, obviously disgusting. My family and I had to leave. The police are now involved, but I was most disappointed in your video as a long-time fan of your YouTube channel. Seeing how you twisted so many facts. Didn't check anything you said from my company to the MBA requirements in Canada. I said most of the time, typically, I actually think I used the word typically, to get an MBA, you need business experience. To say Master of Business Administration. I said typically, and then I said in the UK, but you're in Canada. I was just giving context to what an MBA is. It was not an attack on you. I said typically, this is what you need for an MBA. And you then use that MBA to make people think you know more about the topics than you do. That's all I said. I don't know what was wrong about that. To the MBA requirements in Canada, to the absolute absurd conspiracy theory about my father's company. The only reason you're upset is because allegedly you're a fan of my content. But just because you're a fan of my content doesn't mean I then, just don't talk about you? Well, if you just kick a puppy, do I say, oh, sorry, he's a fan of my content, I can't talk about that? Come on now. I've had massive influencers in my DMs all the time. I've had cease and desist. I've had people in my DMs. I've had people try and, emotionally manipulate me. I make content regardless. And when you said, oh, you could have just reached out to me. No, I don't do that. I didn't do that for James Charles. I don't do that for Jeffree Star. I don't do that for Tati. And I don't do that for you. So that's how my channel works. And if someone's got a fucking problem with that, take it up with someone else, not me. This is why I'll be publicly responding to you, specifically walking through every single piece of that YouTube video that was so incorrect, it's absolutely defamatory. I mean, we'll go through my video and let me know, guys, you guys, let me know if it was defamatory. But if this is a thinly veiled threat, I wanted to at least give you the respect you didn't give me to let you know that I'll be posting a public video. Do you reach out to people before you take them down? Your whole career is the downfall of this. Crumble cookie is a scam because I don't like the way it tastes. Do you reach out to every single one of them before you do a video on them? The fact that you have direct contact with me and could have asked me for a comment or to share my set, I don't do that. I don't do that because comments are biased. So he made Sunny Honey myself from scratch in my kitchen. I don't care. He tapes them on each jar with my mom and grandmother, and I never stated the company was to make money or to scam anyone. I did it to help people. I renovated the office. I didn't say any of that. This is delusional. This is delusional. I didn't talk about the process. I even debunked the fact that some people said you were dropshipping stuff. I said, I don't think you are. You should be utterly ashamed of yourself for destroying my small business I created. This emotional manipulation, I literally had to talk about this when I was doing my wedding bride dress video. And she was using that whole, I am a small business and you are, ruining my small business. What emotional manipulation? Just because you're a small business doesn't mean you will be less likely to scam someone or damage something or do something wrong. You're just a small business. I don't care. I love to support small businesses, but if you're doing something wrong, I'm going to say it. Then I respond to him and I said, hi, first of all, I want to say that when I post content, it is without bias. And so I do not reach out to anyone ever. You can absolutely try to disprove everything I said if you wish, but I think you have bigger fish to fry. Like the fact that you lost 150,000 followers in a day. Most of my video was me reacting to your videos / videos of other TikTokers or expressing opinions. I said nothing about how your honey business started. So you sending notes, etc. has nothing to do with me or my opinion. At most, I called your business overpriced and a wellness thing with minimal scientific backing, which I stand by still. Nothing I said was defamatory, so let's not even start that game. I appreciate you sending me your business process, but once again, it has nothing to do with what I said. That's me nicely saying I don't care. That's not what I was criticizing, and it means nothing to this story, really. I know that sounds really mean, like me saying it now, but I think I just have to be really blunt because I don't understand what that is in reaction to. I didn't say anything about your process. I outlined your career on TikTok, videos people disagreed with, theories about you and your career education, and touched on your business venture. If you don't like any of that, that is fine. I haven't liked the things people said about me either at times, but that's how the cookie crumbles. Have a nice day. Also, I didn't destroy your business, you destroyed it yourself. When I posted my video, you had already posted an apology and lost over 100,000 followers. You have yourself to blame and are now deflecting onto me to make yourself feel better. Really, Angelica, you don't think calling me the biggest scammer on TikTok with a photo of my family on your channel is at the very least extremely dramatic? Said, no, it's not. The title was tongue-in-cheek. The same way you called Crumble a scam because you didn't think it tasted good. We can play this game, but you will look like a hypocrite every time. Also, your family is a topic of conversation because of you, not me. I didn't make the original TikToks with millions of views. Others did. I just reacted to them. Take it up with them, not me. Crumble is a $1 billion company, a little different from my small business I run from my parents' basement. First of all, Crumble being a $1 billion company has nothing to do with the fact that you are a hypocrite. You do one thing, but you hate when people do it to you. Takedown of the D'Amelios, the downfall of the D'Amelios. The moment you have a downfall, the moment there's a takedown of you, oh, woe is me. But we've all done that. And I said that in my first video, that you are making typical mistakes that we all made. I used to be such a massive hypocrite. Such a massive hypocrite. I would do cancellations of people and videos with millions of views, tearing people apart. And then I was upset when I got cancelled. Of course, everyone is. We're all hypocrites. But you can't do downfall of videos and then be upset when people do a downfall of you, because chances are your Charli D'Amelio video could have led to her receiving death threats, to someone crazy showing up to her house. You could have been responsible for that.
So yeah, I played some of Angelica's video there now. Obviously not the whole thing, like I said, her video is linked down below, but I just wanted to take some parts of it so you could kind of hear what he said and how she responded to that. And I will say I appreciate Angelica bringing up when she got canceled, because when I saw this, I was actually thinking about that. I've been a long time watcher of Angelica's content, and I don't remember the details of that, but I do remember that happening. I will say that I agree with her that she's right. It sucks and no one likes that. So I can totally understand why Be Better is upset that this is happening, just like Angelica was at that time. I wouldn't love someone making a video like that about me, obviously, but I also don't think that I'm better than anyone. And if I ever do anything that warrants that, I hope I never fuck up to the point where where it's necessary for a video like that to be made about me, but if I do, then honestly, as much as it would suck, I would say that I would probably deserve it. And I wanted to go through the DMs a little bit myself that he sent to Angelica and sort of give my 2 cents regardless of what she was talking about. So the first DM, he says to her something that stuck out to me, which was, as a longtime fan of your channel, seeing how you twisted so many facts and didn't fact check anything you said, from my company to the MBA requirements in Canada to the absolute absurd conspiracy theory about my father's company. Kind of like how he didn't fact check anything in his Kamala Harris campaign video, pot, meat, kettle. Also, Angelica didn't say anything that wasn't already out there. And then regarding the MBA requirements, in Angelica's initial video, she did say that she only knew them for the UK and that she didn't know 100% how similar they are in Canada. But other creators who are in Canada have pointed out that they actually are pretty similar, and that typically there is a requirement to have experience working or owning a business before you go for an MBA. Him mentioning being a fan of her content and that she could have reached out to him if she so chose to, but she decided not to, feels really manipulative in my opinion. It feels like he's trying to almost play on like a friendship that doesn't exist and say that she shouldn't have made the video because of that. And then he said, you could have contacted me and asked for a comment on my side of the story, and you neglected to do that and instead created a one-sided video that's opened my eyes to your priorities being clickbait and not the truth. If he wants his side out there, he can make a video. I am very similar to Angelica. I do not reach out to anyone in my videos. I can only speak for myself here, but it kind of sounds like Angelica is the same, but I comment on what is publicly available. So if he had put out, by the time that I was filming this, a reaction or some type of video explaining all of what was going on, I would include it. But that's just not there, so it's not in the video. If he does, maybe I'll make a follow-up. Unless people just don't care about this at all, then maybe I won't. But that is my choice as a creator, and I only ever react to what's already available. This is a very personal experience, but I've even had an MLMer that was in one of my videos before reach out to me in DMs, and I did respond a couple of times, not for a comment in the video, but just like talking to her because she did not like what I said about her in my video, obviously. And she then made a video of her own trying to say that I had told her I only make anti-MLM videos for views and that I'm not even anti-MLM. So then I had to go make a follow-up video showing all of our DM conversations because she wanted to completely lie when I didn't say anything close to that. And that video is still on my channel somewhere, so if you want to see that and figure out that whole situation, you can. That was a couple years ago now, but that was one thing that really opened my eyes to communicating with these type of people in DMs. It has made me just not want to at all. And the other thing with that situation was she was always trying to voice note me, and I would only ever respond in text because I wanted very clear proof of exactly what I said. I didn't want any she said about what's in the voice note because sometimes they go away after a while or you can't play them after a while. But enough about me. This has nothing to do with me. But all that to say, I can understand why Angelica doesn't do the whole DMing for a comment thing. I mean, I myself, I'm not a journalist. I'm not here seeking out comments and things. If he had publicly addressed any of the criticism he was facing, I would have included it in this video. And I'm sure Angelica would do the same just based on the videos I've seen of hers in the past. Typically, if both sides are available, she does show them. And like Angelica mentioned, does he reach out to anyone? Did he reach out to the D'Amelios before making those videos? Did he reach out to Nick before talking about Space Camp? It really doesn't seem like it at all. So I don't know why he is expecting that people have to do that to him when he does not do that when he makes his videos. And he goes on to discuss in the DMs about how he made the honey in his kitchen, that he operates out of his parents' basement, etc. He also says, I gave them away for free to moms in shelters and parents of kids in the Darling Home, which was a terminally ill center for kids because they were struggling with their mental health. And while that is a lovely thing to do, and I definitely commend him for doing that, that has nothing to do, again, with Angelica's video or what she talked about at all, or this video and what I'm talking about. It's completely unrelated that in the past he has given away the honey for free to benefit people in need. Good people do bad things and bad people do good things all the time, but one doesn't negate the other. So just because he's done that in the past doesn't mean that he is above all criticism in the future. And he says to her, you should be utterly ashamed of yourself for destroying my small business I created, and once you see my video, I really hope you understand how harmful and hurtful what you did was. And first of all, he kind of sounds like a villain here. In my opinion, that is my opinion, not defamation. And yes, it absolutely does suck to have your small business questioned online, but Angelica did not put out anything out there that was not already existing from either other creators or her own opinion that the honey seems overpriced, which is an opinion that she is entitled to have. Overpriced is subjective. To some people, $80 honey is probably cheap. Like the Kardashians would probably buy that in a heartbeat. And she also stated that you can get honey from the same mountain for way less, which is a fact. That is out there. A quick Google search can show you that. And to me, it seems like he's trying to use the label of small business as a shield that no one can criticize him because of, when really his unresearched and poorly articulated, as he said himself, video of the Kamala Harris campaign is what prompted people to even look into this and discuss this as a whole. Everything that he's facing and what people are saying are as a result of his own actions and information that he put out there publicly, whether it be on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on his website, etc., is all already out there. Anyone leaking his address, I wholeheartedly agree that is horrible. That is illegal. That is doxing. And that's way too far and not warranted at all in the situation. But I feel like most people who I have seen make criticism have just been discussing what was already out there. And his whole videos, like I said, are the downfall of companies and content creators. By flexing his business degree and talking about his own business and taking down other businesses, he has positioned himself as an authority in business and in conversation about business. So it's only fair that people will hold his company to a higher standard than they would anyone else. He also then said, "You don't think calling me the biggest scammer on TikTok with a photo of my family is at the very least extremely dramatic?" To that I say that, does he not think making the downfall of is dramatic? Like, those are dramatic. They're clickable titles, and he himself, who knows all about marketing, should understand that a clickable title is part of what gets people engaged in watching your video. Mr. Marketing should probably know that. And he's made videos saying things like the glorious downfall of Blake Lively, her utter failure of a hair care brand. He's literally spat out crumble cookie in his video, acting like it's just completely inedible. And I would say all that is dramatic as well. That is for views. If your video is not dramatic and engaging at all, people will not watch it. And he understands marketing, so why would he not expect Angelika to market her video in a way that is clickable and interesting and engaging to the audience that she's trying to attract? I obviously have to say, I do not condone people harassing his family, showing up at his house, showing up at his sister's place of employment. I don't condone any of that at all. I think that's absolutely abhorrent behavior, and I don't think it's warranted. Like, internet drama is never that serious, and that type of behavior is never justified, especially over his video about Kamala Harris, which is what sparked all this. Even if he turned out to be like a huge Trump supporter, which there are Canadian Trump supporters, trust me, I've seen them, that would not warrant that type of behavior. Like, someone can have a different opinion from you without them deserving that type of behavior, like people showing up at their house or harassing their family. It's never an excuse or a reason to take things offline, even if you truly wholeheartedly disagree with what someone's doing or saying. And while I can't speak for Angelika, I am sure that she would agree with that statement as well, that that's way too far. And then he finishes it off by saying that, "I honestly thought, given the context of my home address being leaked as a result of the conspiracy theories, the addresses of offices where my youngest sisters work, etc., maybe you would have been interested in hearing the other side of the story or seeing evidence to the contrary, but clearly I was wrong. Take care." I'll reiterate again, that absolutely sucks, but that's not her fault nor her problem. Those are issues that he needs to address at the source and not conflate that stuff happening with Angelika's video. If someone posted his address online or did anything to incite violence or harassment towards his family, I 100% think he should address that with the law. But Angelika didn't condone or incite people doing that. And it does come off kind of manipulative to bring up this terrible stuff happening, because it seems to me like he's bringing it up as a means of basically hoping that Angelika will take her video down out of pity because of what's happening to him, when one doesn't have to do with the other. I'm saying, I thought you'd want to hear the other side of the story. He is free to share that anytime that he wants. No one has stopped him. These videos on TikTok that you reacted to existed already, so if he wanted to disprove or refute them, he could have done so at any point in time. And also with the Kamala Harris video, he did make an apology in a follow-up video, and that is his side. That was shared in her video just like it's shared in this video, so his side has been shared. I don't blame her for not wanting that conversation to happen privately. I feel like when things get too private and you're talking with the other person who you're making a video about, it just sort of gets too heavy too. You feel like you're keeping a secret. What can you share? What can't you share? It's just not something I've ever been interested in doing, so I understand Angelika just being like, I don't do that. I don't reach out to people for comment. If you want your side shared, you can post it. I don't care. And there is a couple of comments on Angelika's video that I really enjoyed, so I'm just going to read them here now quickly. One person said, "It's so pathetic when influencers get called out by someone and attempt to silence them by misusing legal jargon or guilt tripping them. Opinions are protected speech, bro. You don't have to like it, but you can't take people to court over it, and it's certainly not defamation. Log off." And that's really funny to me that he even said that she was defaming him, because he himself has gotten a cease and desist from a company that he ripped up in a video and said basically that legal action is expensive, threatening legal action is free.
Got a cease and desist letter, and Emma Chamberlain sent me her coffee, so as far as this goes, we will not be paying attention to it, because suing someone for defamation is very expensive, but threatening to sue them is free. So that's an important life lesson.
I feel like that can be used against him very similarly in this situation, because telling someone that you're defaming them is free and you can throw that around all you want. But in an actual court of law, just saying they're defaming me and so I don't like it, that will not hold up. But anyways, that is kind of everything that I had to talk about today with this whole Be Better situation. I wanted to make a video just recapping the entire thing, kind of start to finish, of what has gone on so far. And as well, I just had to talk about it after seeing that he DM'd Angelika about it, because it to me seems crazy that, like I said, he can dish it all day long, but he cannot take it. And if you want to make your videos about the downfall of all these other people, when it's time for your downfall, it's pretty hypocritical to expect no one else to talk about that, especially where he's made his name as such a big creator making those videos. Let me know what you thought about all this down below, because there's quite a few different elements to this video. Hit the subscribe while you're down there, and with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. Bye!